detective.
Of hostages at a Russian theater. We'll have a live report from Moscow on that next.
Uncanny. To date, the Priceline.com supercomputer has booked over 7 million name-your-own-price hotel room stays, saving travelers up to 50% and more on luxury vacations, low-budget road trips, family reunions, last-minute getaways, intercontinental rendezvous. Priceline.com supercomputer, delivering deluxe accommodations via discount computations.
I think, therefore I say.
Gina? You know, when I was first hired, we didn't have all these fancy integrated systems. Our sales program wasn't even linked with accounting. Warehouse platform in Chicago wasn't linked to anything, not even shipping. Back then, orders took days. Now they just take hours.
Wow, how long have you been working here?
A couple of months now.
Oh.
With Microsoft Server software, you can quickly connect all aspects of your business. That's software for the agile business. From Microsoft.
How easy is it to get on the internet? This easy with MSN TV service from Microsoft. It uses your existing phone line and the TV you already own. See these buttons? Push one and you jump to email to stay in touch with family and friends. Or quickly visit websites to plan travel, research health news, explore new hobbies, and more. People love their MSN TV service because it's so friendly. They never worry about pushing the wrong button. How affordable is getting on the internet?
For just $99, you get the MSN TV receiver, wireless keyboard, universal remote, and connection kit. And internet access starts as low as $9.95 a month. Call now and get 2 months of internet service free after paid service. Long-distance telephone toll charges may apply. To check local access, call 800-388-9652.
Isn't it time you were on the internet? MSN TV service. Easy to use, affordable to own.
We've lost momentary contact with Moscow, but we're going to bring you that report on that hostage-taking at that theater there just as soon as we reestablish it. In the meantime, pushing ahead on Iraq after weeks of diplomatic wrangling, the United States put its tough new proposals into the hands of the UN Security Council in preparation for a vote that could come as early as next week. For the latest on that, Fox News senior White House correspondent Jim Angle.
As the United Nations took a break from the hand-to-hand diplomatic combat over a new Security Council resolution, President Bush kept up the pressure on the UN.
In the case that you have a choice, United Nations, to keep the peace by showing some backbone. You can be the United Nations or the League of Nations. It's your choice.
But Mr. Bush's aides have also worked behind the scenes to make important changes in the resolution to meet French and Russian concerns. They worried that the U.S. might interpret some of the language as an automatic right to use force, what they see as hidden triggers for military action. So the U.S. reassured them with a line saying that if Iraq does interfere with arms inspectors, the Security Council will convene immediately in order to consider the situation and the need for full compliance with all the relevant Security Council resolutions in order to restore international peace and security. That willingness to consult with the Security Council seems to have reassured the French, but not the Russians, who continue to object to all sorts of things, including the tough new instructions for arms inspectors.
And we cannot agree to unimplementable, unrealistic demands to be put in this resolution on top of the existing demands by the Security Council.
Russia didn't like a reference in the resolution that said Iraq had to provide a full and complete declaration of all aspects of its weapons programs within 30 days and prior to the beginning of inspections. Russia worried that meant the U.S. might immediately challenge that declaration as false and attack before any inspectors even set foot in Iraq. American officials scoffed at the idea, but dropped the phrase anyway. The resolution also allows the inspectors to freeze the entire area around a suspected weapons site with no-fly, no-drive zones, and exclusion zones, which the U.S. wanted to enforce with UN security forces or by member states. Some feared forces of member states sounded like U.S. troops on the ground inside Iraq. That, too, was dropped.
We've got some way to go in terms of seeking the unity of the Council, but the propositions put by the US and the UK are very firm, very fair, very clear.
Monday, Chief UN Weapons Inspector Hans Blix will brief the Security Council, and one non-American diplomat is confident that his explanation of what he needs to make the arms inspections effective will overcome some of Russia's objections. The bottom line, says this source, is that Russia has to understand that feeble inspections won't work and will not avoid war. At the White House, Jim Angle, Fox News.
In a moment, we're going to try to reestablish contact with Moscow, and we'll have more on Iraq and the Pentagon. Stay tuned.
It's almost 200,000 people in over 40 countries, working as one. It's 10 inventions every business day. And not all of them automotive. It's going from the Indy 500 to the Fortune 500. It's Delphi, where slowing down is not an option. Gotta go.
It's in 9 out of 10 of the world's largest telecom carriers. 5 of the top 6 U.S. internet service providers, and 4 of the largest local phone companies in the U.S. What are these companies building into their business? The network capacity they need when they need it, from a network company they can rely on. Level 3 communications, the network partner you can rely on.
The World Series is alive. Barry Bonds faces the defining moment of his career as the Giants look to Barry Gloss and the Cinderella Angels. The World Series this week on your local Fox station.
The NFL Show. Join Michael Irvin, Tony Siragusa, and comedian Tommy Davidson. It's more than just a pregame show. The NFL Show, this weekend on Fox Sports Net.
There are some things that candidate Richard Devlin probably doesn't want you to know. Where do we start? Fact. The state public employment retirement system, PERS, has been totally mismanaged, and it is now near bankruptcy. And as a state legislator, Richard Devlin voted against 2 key reforms to the PERS system, costing taxpayers millions. Fact. While Devlin was voting against PERS reform, he was voting for an increase in PERS benefits for himself and his political cronies. Now Devlin wants to be your state senator. Tell him no.
The big insurance and drug companies always get their way. Profit before people. What if we change that? What if we negotiate for lower prescription drug prices? What if we pool our resources for insurance discounts? What if we look for candidates in this election who will stand with us instead of the big insurance and drug companies? We can elect legislators who will help us cut Oregon's healthcare costs down to size. Check their record and then vote like your health depends on it.
The Defense Department has organized an intelligence analysis team, which Secretary Rumsfeld said will examine information on terrorist networks and their, quote, relationship with terrorist states. So why is this necessary, and what does it say about intelligence gathered by the CIA? Fox News Pentagon correspondent Bret Baier reports.
Senior defense officials confirm that 4 Defense Department analysts are now tasked with reviewing piles of intelligence to try to find an active link between Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda network and Saddam Hussein's Iraqi regime. The 4 analysts report to Undersecretary of Defense Doug Feith. Today, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld described the newly revealed office as more help to sift through large volumes of raw data provided by the intelligence community.
It is not any suggestion that it's an intelligence gathering activity or an intelligence unit of some sort. I think would be a misunderstanding of it.
In a New York Times article about the new office today, Deputy Defense Secretary Paul Wolfowitz is quoted as saying, "They are not making independent intelligence assessments," but adds, quote, "the lens through which you're looking for facts affects what you look for," suggesting that there is some unhappiness with the information being provided by the intelligence community. Defense Department officials have said the link between Saddam Hussein and al-Qaeda is strong, active, and irrefutable, including that Iraq has given al-Qaeda members some level of training with chemical weapons. Here's Secretary Rumsfeld in Atlanta last month.
We ended up with 5 or 6 sentences that were bulletproof. We could say them. They're factual. They're exactly accurate. They demonstrate that there are, in fact, al-Qaeda in Iraq.
U.S. officials tell Fox News while they don't dispute that some al-Qaeda members may be in Iraq, there is no hard evidence to indicate that Iraq and al-Qaeda have worked together. There is a clear difference here between how the intelligence community and the Defense Department look at the al-Qaeda-Iraq link, a difference Rumsfeld tried to downplay today.
There is a very effective interaction going on. I don't get briefed today by anyone other than the CIA. I get briefed every morning by them. It is an excellent relationship between the Department of Defense and the intelligence community.
That said, a few months ago, Secretary Rumsfeld was not pleased with a proposal to put the National Security Agency and the Defense Intelligence Agency, both run by the Defense Department, under CIA Director George Tenet. Rumsfeld was complimentary of Tenet, but he said it was useful to have different perspectives on intelligence and was against putting everything under the CIA Director's control. That proposal, by the way, after that, did not go any further. Brit?
Brett, thank you. We have now, at long last, reestablished contact with Moscow, where Chechen gunmen holding hundreds of hostages in a Moscow theater shot and killed one captive and warned today that they and thousands of their comrades were, quote, keen on dying. The latest on that situation now from Fox News correspondent Amy Kellogg, live from Moscow. Hello, Amy.
Well, Brit, a lot of people here are saying that this hostage situation really represents an escalation of the conflict that's been going on in Chechnya now for pretty much 8 years. Chechen rebels have taken Russian hostages before, but in Chechnya or in the region, not in the heart of Russia. Now, yesterday there was a lot of contact with the hostages inside the Moscow theater. They were able to call out on cell phones, but Brit, I just spoke to someone at the U.S. Embassy here in Moscow who says his understanding is the reason that there has not been any contact today is that the hostage takers are not letting the hostages use their cell phones. That embassy spokesman did confirm that 3 Americans are among the hostages inside. He wouldn't say whether they were tourists or expats working here in Moscow. He did say, though, that the last contact with those Americans, one of whom has a cell phone, was earlier today, which would in fact at this point be yesterday since it's 2 o'clock in the morning here in Moscow. Now, as you mentioned, one of the hostages was killed yesterday, a 20-year-old Russian woman. Her body was only taken out of the theater today. There are at least 700 hostages inside right now. Some are saying it looks like it's 800. They've been in there for well over 24 hours when armed men and women stormed the theater, threatening to blow themselves and the entire theater up if Russian troops do not pull out of Chechnya. Apparently, the hostages now have been separated into 3 groups: Russians, Ukrainians, and, quote, foreigners, meaning people not from the former Soviet Union. A Jordanian doctor just went in to visit with the hostages. He tells the Russian television station NTV that about 30 children are among the hostages inside, some with medical needs, including one with epilepsy. 40 hostages so far have been released from the Moscow theater, and 2 18-year-old women escaped today. There were also dramatic stories from Wednesday night when this all started of people who were tying together costumes to lower themselves out of windows and get out. And finally, the Gulf-based Al Jazeera TV today released some tapes. It ran some footage of people who were apparently speaking Russian, but it's dubbed over into Arabic. They were saying that the Chechens are, the captors are willing to die for the freedom of Chechnya, and that they do down. Many others are willing to go with them. Also, may have been, was a direct order, in fact, from Aslam Makhadov, who was the de facto president of Chechnya until the Russians withdrew in 1996. Back to you, Brit.
Amy Kellogg, thank you very much. We got to take a quick break here for other headlines. When we return, could the U.S. Army be responsible for training the Beltway sniper or creating him? We'll tell you about that next on The Grapevine.
This is a shrimp boat, and this is a boatload of shrimp. 30 mix and match shrimp for just $9.99 now at Red Lobster. Boatload. Got it.
Let's get that home equity loan.
It's the Hendersons.
Get him a great deal.
Want banks to compete over you? Come to LendingTree.com. Fill out one form and get up to 4 offers within hours. When banks compete, you win at LendingTree.com.
Come on. Come on.
Really hate pop-ups? Our new pop-up blocker gets rid of nearly all unwanted pop-ups, so they can't get to you.
7-point now. 7-point this.
Why wait? Move to Earthlink. Get pop-up blocker and your first 1,000 hours free. Call 1-800-EARTHLINK.
When something is made with great precision, it does more than withstand the test of time. It seems to triumph over it. Then, and only then, does it become a true collector's item. The certified pre-owned Acura. A lasting tribute to precision engineering.
Yeah. I'm on a 10 o'clock flight.
Business trip, huh? Remember, you can achieve success anywhere. For example, I've caught touchdown passes in all these cities.
Jerry, but I've thrown touchdown passes in all of these cities.
I was here first, Steve.
So?
You backup quarterback?
Butterfingers?
You pretty boy?
Slowpoke?
Wherever business takes you, Courtyard has what you need to be successful.
Sports analyst.
Step away from the vehicle.
Now make 3 stays and earn 2 free nights. Call 1-888-MARRIOTT. Courtyard, your Marriott awaits.
Tonight, forensics, ballistics, and physical evidence. With 2 suspects in custody, police begin building their case in the sniper investigation. What happens next? Mark Furman with expert analysis. Plus, from military training camps to questioning the motives behind their killing spree. Is there a terrorist connection in this case? The latest on the sniper investigation. It's all tonight on Hannity and Combs. Captured. Police take 2 suspects into custody. As investigators sift through evidence, will justice be served for victims and their families? Stay with Fox News Channel for live updates.
The bullets are a match. Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia. And that was the words that everyone in Washington was waiting to hear. A gun found in John Muhammad's car has been linked by a ballistics test to 10 of the 13 sniper shootings. Tonight, police confirm that Muhammad and John Lee Malvo, who were arrested early this morning, are officially considered suspects at this time. While President Bush was out of town today, the Secret Service nabbed an intruder outside his home. The man jumped the fence after throwing something into the fountain on the north lawn of the White House. The item was determined not to be dangerous. The man has been charged with illegal entry. Well, the president spent the day stumping for Republicans in Alabama, hoping to help the GOP reclaim the governor's mansion there and hold on to control of the House. After the political stop, President Bush headed to his ranch in Crawford, Texas, where he'll host Chinese President Jiang Zemin this weekend. Elsewhere, North Korea says it wants a non-aggression pact with the U.S. before it will discuss its nuclear weapons program. They promised in 1994 to abandon that program, but now say that that agreement was nullified when President Bush referred to North Korea as part of the axis of evil. Well, I'll have another update coming your way at the top of the hour. I'm Donna Fiducia. Special report with Brit Hume continues next. Coming up, the Texas Senate race right here on the Network America Trust for fair and balanced news. Stay tuned.
And now the most captivating 2 minutes in television, the latest from the wartime grapevine. At the Pentagon today, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld was stopped in the hallway by a reporter from Reuters, the wire service which famously refuses to use the word terrorist except in quotes. The reporter asked Rumsfeld, in light of the detention of ex-Army Sergeant John Muhammad in the sniper case, if the U.S. military, quote, felt responsible for creating the alleged killer. Rumsfeld replied, quote, "You have got to be kidding." The reporter said he was not. Rumsfeld said he and the military certainly did not feel responsible. At the daily briefing later, this exchange ensued.
Could you put that in perspective in terms of it's not necessarily a black eye for the military or anything like that?
Personally, I think it's ludicrous to think this is a black eye on the military. We have, between active duty and reservists today, over 2.2 million serving, and they turn over at some rate, so there's tens of millions out there who have served.
As police were closing in on the two suspects in the sniper investigation, Newsday, the Long Island daily newspaper, was publishing a column by the veteran popular journalist Jimmy Breslin, demanding to know why President Bush had continued to travel the country making, quote, these cheap campaign tours. Breslin said the president should have been, quote, helping to repel the attack on Washington by taking a walk through the Maryland suburbs. As for Attorney General Ashcroft, Breslin said he should have posted the National Guard around schools. And he also said of Ashcroft, a devout Christian, quote, I think he goes to church to pray against people. Democratic National Chairman Terry McAuliffe says his top priority in November is to defeat Florida Governor Jeb Bush. Speaking to staff at the New York Times, McAuliffe said, quote, Jeb is gone. There won't be anything as devastating to President Bush as his brothers losing in Florida, end quote. The Democratic Party plans to send about 1,000 lawyers to the polls in Florida, part of an army of approximately 10,000 lawyers who have volunteered to work for the Democrats on Election Day. Meanwhile, scandals involving Democratic voter registration efforts have marred their get-out-the-vote drives in South Dakota and Wisconsin, and Republicans are also claiming that Democrats have tried to register dead people in Arkansas. Republicans have controlled the Texas Senate seat that's up this year for 40 years, and the Bush White House expects GOP candidate John Cornyn to keep it that way on November 5th. Cornyn clashed repeatedly with Democratic opponent Ron Kirk in a heated debate last night over who would better protect Social Security and who is more beholden to special interests. Fox News chief political correspondent Carl Cameron has more in this You Decide 2002 report.
In the Texas U.S. Senate race, the issue of race took center stage for the first time at the most recent debate when Democrat and former Dallas Mayor Ron Kirk, the only black candidate in the country with a real shot at winning a Senate seat, stood up for affirmative action on college campuses.
Race should be one of many criteria that any college or university can look at in building an ethnically strong and diverse talent pool.
The white Republican, Texas Attorney General John Cornyn, disagreed, saying no group deserves special treatment over another.
Affirmative action was never meant to be a permanent solution. It was meant to be a transition. It's unfair to have a system of set-asides and quotas and preferences that treat people differently based on the color of their skin.
Cornyn has a slim lead statewide of about 5 points in the most recent polls.
I'm John Cornyn, running for the United States Senate. So don't forget to vote.
But it is Kirk who leads in the state's two largest cities, Dallas, where he was mayor, and Houston with its large urban vote. Together, the two cities traditionally produce 40% of votes cast in Texas elections, and Democrats hope it will catapult Kirk to victory. On the stump, the Democrat emphasizes domestic issues.
It is one of my priorities that we do provide an answer to prescription drugs and Social Security.
The two largely agree when it comes to the war on terror, and Cornyn, too, has focused mostly on kitchen table topics.
I think about the importance of education, jobs, and health care.
Cornyn expects the minority vote to go mostly to his opponent, but he says he's not giving up.
I expect to do better than Republicans have traditionally done among Hispanics, and I don't intend to write off the African American vote.
At the Texas State Baptists Conference, Cornyn found lots of colorful hats, but not a lot of enthusiasm from African Americans wearing them. A key event organizer acknowledged that Cornyn has the edge in this race because Texas has become increasingly conservative.
The state has become more Republican. Most Republicans vote white.
And Republicans are pouring millions into an ad blitz painting Kirk too left for Texas.
Ron Kirk, not ready, too liberal for Texas.
Democrats view Kirk as a rising star in American politics, and he casts himself as a moderate whose record is being maligned by the Republican.
If a quarter of what John Cornyn says about me were true, my mama would disown me.
Kirk faces one more complicating factor. Texas, of course, is home to George W. Bush, and a lot of voters here would much rather send a Republican to Washington in order to help the president advance his agenda in the U.S. Senate. In Corpus Christi, Texas, Carl Cameron, Fox News.
Over in the Middle East today, Assistant Secretary of State William Burns told senior Palestinian officials that Palestinians themselves must take decisive action against terrorists and get serious about internal reform if they want to embark on the road to statehood, as outlined in a new Mideast peace plan. Fox News correspondent Jennifer Griffin has the latest from Jerusalem.
Another U.S. Middle East envoy, another peace plan to establish a Palestinian state and bring Israelis security. But this one was envisioned by President Bush.
To end the occupation that began in 1967, to end the very real suffering and humiliation that Palestinians experience under occupation every day, and to end the terror and violence which have done so much to undermine the legitimate aspirations of Palestinians.
The three-phase blueprint hammered out with the United Nations, European Union, and Russia would give the Palestinians a state with provisional borders by the end of next year. But first, in the next 3 months, the Palestinians must carry out political reforms, overhaul their security forces, announce an immediate end to the armed intifada, and reiterate publicly that Israel has the right to exist. They must appoint a new cabinet and create the post of a prime minister, an attempt, Palestinian spokesmen complain, by the Bush administration to sideline their president, Yasser Arafat. Assistant Secretary of State William Burns refused to meet Arafat during his visit, in keeping with White House policy. But an Arafat spokesman says the real problem is not Arafat, but Israel's military actions.
What we want the United States to do is to stop this vicious cycle, to stop the incursions, to stop the killing fields out there, to stop the collective punishment, to stop the human catastrophe that's facing the Palestinian people.
The plan requires the Israelis over the next 3 months to stop attacks on Palestinian civilian areas and to dismantle the recent expansions of Jewish settlements. Outposts like this one the army tried to tear down last week, resulting in violent clashes with Jewish settlers. Then Israeli troops would have to withdraw to positions they held before the Intifada began 2 years ago. The pullback must be complete before the Palestinians hold new parliamentary elections early next year. The Israelis complain the plan requires them to take more concrete steps than the Palestinians, at a greater risk to their security, making them more vulnerable to terror attacks.
Naturally, from our standpoint, the most urgent and demanding issue is security.
The U.S. peace envoy's mission is being seen here as a way to shore up the support of moderate Arab states prior to a possible U.S. strike against Iraq. The plan envisions full statehood for the Palestinians in 3 years, but the last phase of the peace proposal ends with the same final status talks on all the sticky issues: Jerusalem, refugees, borders, and settlements, the same issues that have caused so many peace talks to break down before. In Jerusalem, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
So what have we learned from the Beltway sniper case, from the arrests, and from the identity of the suspects? We'll talk about that with the Fox All-Stars next.
Your doctor probably never sees you when you feel like this. This is usually who your doctor sees. That deeply depressed you who barely dragged yourself in for treatment. That's why so many people with bipolar disorder are being treated for depression and not getting any better. Because depression is only half the story. That fast-talking, energetic, quick-tempered, overdoing it up all night you probably never shows up in the doctor's office, right? Log on to bipolarawareness.com, sponsored by Lilly, on WebMD, the place for healthcare answers. Take the test you can take to your doctor. It can change your life. Let your doctor in on it. In order to make a correct diagnosis, your doctor has to know about your ups as well as your downs. Getting a correct diagnosis is the first step in treating bipolar disorder. Help your doctor help you.
All right, Wildcats, listen up. Now, while Dave's dad here's away, we're going to be short a third base coach. Do any of your dads have any experience? Yeah.
My dad owns Nike. There's my dad.
Hey, guys. Jelly bean?
Ownership. It's for everybody. At Ameritrade. Everything you need to trade. All for $10.99. Every online equity trade, no matter how many shares you buy.
Wildcats.
80 million Americans have a share. Ameritrade. What's your share? Open an account at Ameritrade.com and get 25 commission-free internet equity trades.
Some analytical observations now from Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, Mort Kondracki, executive editor of Roll Call, and Cece Connolly, national correspondent of the Washington Post, Fox News contributors all. Well, does it feel to everybody here as if they have the likely suspects here, and that the danger, at least in immediate danger to Washington, D.C. residents who've been living in such fear for a while, is over?
Well, we've heard some talk late today about authorities looking for a couple of other individuals, but the emphasis seems to be that perhaps they're witnesses, potential witnesses in this case. They're not talking about having warrants for their arrest. Somebody in New Jersey named Osborne, who perhaps co-owns this Caprice.
The car, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, of course, we're waiting for the official word from the police, but it does seem as if this may be an end to this crisis here.
I mean, there is no evidence that he was operating with anybody besides this young man that he was caught with, Muhammad. I mean, he is a member of the Nation of Islam. He is a very angry man, apparently. I mean, he said.
We should say, by the way, that the word from the courthouse out there in Rockville is that the gun that was found is said now to be a ballistic match for the one used in the shooting. So that would be a very powerful sign that, if they have the weapon and the person they found with it, they probably are well on their way here.
The evidence suggests that, I mean, there may have been political motivation behind this. We've heard that he was saying favorable things about the terrorism on 9/11. But he seems to be a freelance terrorist. I mean, the fact that he came here to the Washington, D.C. area and didn't just stay down in Alabama and do his murdering suggests that he had some, larger motive in mind, but he seems to be been acting alone.
Well, Mort, why in the world would you say that when the investigation just began? Well, we know. Wait a minute.
On the basis of what we know.
Since 1990, I know, but why emphasize that? It just started. Remember Richard Reed? Remember the shoe bomber tried to blow up that plane, the American Airlines plane from Paris to Miami? Everybody said, oh, he was just acting alone. Turns out, by his own admission now, he was a full-fledged al-Qaeda agent. He had gone all over Europe, scouting out sites to bomb. He'd been trained in Afghanistan and so on. Look, we know there's one thing through all these terrorist attacks: the World Trade Center in 1993, the embassies overseas in 1998, the USS Cole in 2000, 9/11, Richard Reed, and now it is Muslim men who hate the United States. Now, I think there's every reason to suspect, or at least to strongly investigate, whether he's tied to al-Qaeda or some other terrorist group.
Well, I would certainly.
But to go around and say there's no evidence and he's a freelancer, which is what you said, that's preposterous.
I said on the basis of what we know.
Just started the investigation. Why would you be touting that?
Look, would I check it out? Would I investigate to find out? Of course I would. But on the basis of what we know now, that is what it looks like. I'm not ruling anything out, for heaven's sake.
Look, you've had federal authorities involved in this investigation from the beginning, Fred, and they have said repeatedly that so far they have not been able to find these links. They
just found the suspect. They hadn't found the suspect either.
They haven't been going around emphasizing this. That's nonsense to say that.
Fred, they have also pointed out that at least our experience to date with al-Qaeda type terrorists is that they take credit for their actions.
They do? When?
Absolutely.
Well, when did Muhammad? Who?
They didn't take credit in
9/11,
in 1993 or in 1998 for the embassies or for the USS Cole. In 9/11, they got credit because they were all dead.
So what do you make of the Jamaican guy, Fred? Is that a new Qaeda
I don't make anything of the Jamaican guy in particular, other than the fact that I assume he was a Muslim too, and that ties them all together. And generally, they have been tied to al-Qaeda. To pretend like, well, gee, he's been arrested 18 hours now, and there's no evidence, so he must be a freelancer. That's nonsense.
Well, let's look at this. The point you made earlier, though, Fred, is that the thing that ties them together is Muslim men who have an axe to grind against the United States. Now, there do seem to be indications from what is being said by people who knew these guys out on the West Coast, that or at least knew John Muhammad, that he was bitter about his experience in the Gulf War, and that he was not a part-time Muslim, and that he was sympathetic to the 9/11 terrorists. And this does come at a time, it seems worth noting, when al-Qaeda operatives have tried to stimulate more action against American targets. So it may be that he's a freelance, but that doesn't mean that this may not be al-Qaeda organized. It may not even be He may not be al-Qaeda connected in any direct way, but it may well be al-Qaeda inspired.
It may be al-Qaeda inspired. I mean, on the basis of what we know, that's what I would think, that 9/11, seeing that there was terrorism going on in the world, that he wanted to be part of it. He was an angry guy. He spent time in the brig for hitting an officer and stuff like that. He was not, the most stable guy, and presumably he was an Islamic fundamentalist. So he decided to take it upon himself. Maybe it will turn out that he spent time in Afghanistan, that he had weapons training there, in which case, Fred, you'll be absolutely right. We don't know yet.
We know many did.
We know he had weapons training in the military.
We know that
and he was a marksman.
That cells of young Muslim men who trained in Afghanistan have been broken up in Lackawanna, New York, and Portland and Detroit, around the country in recent months.
I think, though, it's equally important to point out, and you've been hearing from some leaders in the Muslim community here in the United States. This was a fear that people might quickly jump to a conclusion.
Well, let's hold on. Let's talk about that, Cece. That's a good point. We, in fact, have an example of that sort of reaction, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder, then, why so many drivers choose Shell?
Hilda Taylor, teacher. Bernard Brown II, student. Flight 77, September 11th. How will we remember Hilda and Bernard? Call 1-800-VOLUNTEER.
There are some things that candidate Richard Devlin probably doesn't want you to know. Where do we start? Fact. The state public employment retirement system, PERS, has been totally mismanaged, and it is now near bankruptcy. And as a state legislator, Richard Devlin voted against two key reforms to the PERS system, costing taxpayers millions. Fact. While Devlin was voting against PERS reform, he was voting for an increase in PERS benefits for himself and his political cronies. Now Devlin wants to be your state senator. Tell him no.
I believe that more moderate people, more moderate minds in Salem could fix the budget mess because they could work together and come up with solutions. I've been a policeman for over 31 years in Oregon, and I know the cheapest thing we can do is provide a great education for our kids. My girls got a great basic education in the Beaverton schools. My older daughter Heidi is now a deputy district attorney. My younger daughter Heather is a journeyman electrician. I've held people accountable my entire adult life, and I'll hold the legislature accountable too.
Furniture is having one of their famous 36-hour sales. Beautiful furniture. So I told two friends, and they told two friends, and they told three friends, so on and so on and so on.
It's Wix Furniture's big 36-hour store-wide sale with the best financing in town. No payments, no interest until January 2004. Plus, interest does not accrue. The financing is truly free. You want choices? Choose Wix.
Back with our panel, the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a group that is very prominent in speaking up for American Muslims and has been very much a part of the dialogue in this country on these issues since 9/11 in particular, had a message on its website today for expressing its concerns. And after some congratulations to the police and expression of sympathy for the victims, there was this: we are concerned that because the suspect in this case has the last name of Muhammad, American Muslims will now face scapegoating and bias. Police reports indicate, this continues, the suspects acted alone based on their own motivations. There is no indication that this case is related to Islam or Muslims. That from Nihad Awad, Executive Director of CARE. All right. What to make of that?
It's wrong. That's what to make of it. The police haven't said that they acted on their own for their own motivations. Police haven't said that at all. And it's clear what was driving this guy was someone, as Mort said, he sided with the 9/11 terrorists. He thought anti-American terrorists. He was sympathetic to them in general. Chances are that was a pretty strong motivating force, not what CARE is saying.
And furthermore, there is no evidence of scapegoating or bias. I have not heard one police official, one spokesman, one commentator, one anybody say that this is somehow a problem for the Muslim community in general.
I suspect that you're about to have a lot of email on that subject. Go ahead, Stacey.
I think that you're right, Mort. You haven't heard that kind of talk in the 3 weeks since this whole horrible shooting spree began.
Well, I think these people, I think CARE is worried about what will happen now that the name Muhammad is out there.
Yes, absolutely. And I think in part they are reflecting upon what happened in this country last fall. I mean, a number of Arab American men rounded up without explanation, held for long periods of time, not able to get in touch with families or lawyers. I think that in the current environment, that's at least a legitimate concern to raise under these circumstances.
I would think what they'd want to say is that this was a Muslim man, and there have been other Muslims who have attacked the United States, the World Trade Center, our embassies, they've killed Americans and so on, and that they would denounce that that's not what Islam means, that this is a perversion.
Well, they do make those statements.
They do, Fred.
Well, they didn't today.
Fred, what about, you mentioned earlier in the show Richard Reeve,
yeah.
Or we could talk about John Walker Lind. Is there some white guys group that should come forward and say, we just want you to know all white guys aren't like those
Well,
two?
there was a theory. You know, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the question of white guys, because there was a lot said about angry white men and that this was the work of an angry white man. It wasn't the work of an angry white man at all. It was a Muslim terrorist.
Well, but there have been cases. I mean,
well, wait a minute. Hold it a second.
Yeah.
You laugh.
Yeah.
But is this not by definition the work of a Muslim terrorist?
Yeah. Of course it is. But everybody fits their stereotype. You know, Columbine is angry white kids. The shooting at the Texas Tower years ago was an angry white man. I mean,
brain tumor.
Well, snipers. You know, it fits into the stereotype of
loner, bitter.
The Oklahoma City bombing. You know, angry white men, et cetera, et cetera. So people fit their various stereotypes. Now, this is a new one.
What about this other idea, which is also a kind of a stereotype after these attacks and before the arrests or before anything happens, and that is how good these people are and how smart. We heard that about the 9/11 terrorists, that these people are good, these people are smart. We came to believe that al-Qaeda people were 10 feet tall, and the Taliban collapsed like a house of cards, and they all scattered to the four winds. It didn't look so much that way. We kept hearing about how good this guy was. Did anybody imagine that these people were going to be rounded up, sleeping in their car on a roadside rest stop in some kind of a Caprice junker?
There is one theory that this spot sort of overlooked an Exxon station that conceivably at the crack of dawn they could have gotten up, opened the back end of the car, however they did it, and fired and killed somebody at the Exxon station.
Well, police are saying that they were expecting another attack, so somebody's life probably got saved by that arrest.
And of course, and then one of the phone calls is from the sniper, the police think was the sniper, led to their arrest in the first place, talking about this shooting and killing in Montgomery, Alabama.
That's it for the panel. Stay tuned to find out how a defense secretary dispenses with a question he doesn't have much use for. That's next.
For years, the photo center at Walgreens has been known for quality photo processing. Now, with the Kodak Picture Maker, you can create do-it-yourself prints in a number of different sizes in less than 5 minutes. Crop your photos, even add borders and text. At Walgreens, you can order your prints on CD and get free software to edit them on your PC. Create photo greeting cards in one day or passport photos while you wait. Walgreens Photo Center, where America takes its pictures.
Don't adequately capture the Infiniti Q45. But some come closer than others. The 340 horsepower Q45 from Infiniti.
Wow. I have to call Mother. You should see this place, Mom. So luxurious.
Doug must have paid $509.
My wife thinks I spent a fortune on this honeymoon, but I got the room for $99 on Hotels.com. Great deal. 2 clicks, and I had a room.
Save on thousands of hotels worldwide. Hotels.com. The best prices at the best places, guaranteed.
Calcium, lime, rust. Minerals that build up and leave hard water stains. CLR Clean Stain Coffee decanters crystal clear. Bitter-tasting coffee will disappear when you clean your coffee maker with CLR. CLR makes clogged shower heads spray like new. It works instantly on tub, basin, and toilet rust stains. Watch how fast and easy it removes rust stains from cement and stucco. Get money-back guaranteed CLR at your favorite store.
CLR is available at leading stores everywhere.
Saturday, from the sniper to Iraq to nuclear threats, the market stays strong. Will it last? Bulls and bears with the answers. And sniper suspects in custody. But did they wreak more havoc on our economy than we realize? That's Cavuto on business. Then, corporate corruption. Is the Bush administration really protecting investors? Team Forbes with the facts. Plus, as the leaves fall, is it time to rake in the hot investments? We name names on Cashin' In. Stay with the business team you can invest in on the network America Trusts.
We noted a report earlier that a ballistics match had been made with that rifle and the bullets had killed the victims. The AP has now killed that story and retracted it. Finally tonight, we told you earlier how Defense Secretary Rumsfeld reacted when asked off camera if the military were responsible for creating Beltway sniper suspect John Muhammad. And we showed you how Joint Chiefs Chairman Myers handled a related question. Well, the two of them also got another variation on the question as well. Here's what happened.
If this gentleman served in the military, nobody would blame the military for what's happened. Could you at least disabuse people of the notion that he received some type of sniper training in the military?
I could, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, I could go through the history because I have the history here. The problem is just as the secretary said it.
Is that right? I don't have that.
I have the history. I have the history. Yeah, we could leave it on the floor. I could.
And that's a special report for this time. Please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned for news. Fair, balanced, and unafraid.
The hunt may be over, and Fox on top of it all. We begin with Brian Wilson, who has followed this sorry saga from the very beginning 3 weeks ago. Brian.
There is optimism here in Rockville. We await the filing of official charges. Jonathan.
Do the D.C. sniper shootings have a link to Alabama? We'll have a live report. Neal?
All that and former New York City Police Commissioner Howard Safir on how police may have solved this case. And our own Greta Van Susteren on how authorities prosecute this case. And Amazon.com CEO Jeff Bezos on how his business, oddly enough, was booming throughout this case. Your world is next.
Two sniper suspects are being held. Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia. And an Army vet suspected in the sniper case is being held without bail on a federal firearms charge. John Muhammad was arrested with 17-year-old John Lee Malvo early Thursday morning at a Maryland rest stop. Police say they are sure the two are to blame for the 13 attacks since October 2nd. Meanwhile, military records show the older suspect in the sniper attacks was convicted of striking a non-commissioned officer in the head while on jury duty in Louisiana, in the National Guard there. And another time, John Muhammad was demoted after pleading guilty to willfully disobeying an order. But he did receive 3 medals while serving as a combat engineer during the Gulf War. North Korea says it wants a non-aggression treaty with the U.S. The overture comes amid U.S. concerns about the North's nuclear weapons program. The communist country is desperate for aid from the U.S. and its allies. And the Chechen rebels holding hundreds of hostages in a Moscow theater say they'll free all 75 foreigners, including Americans. Police say embassies are being asked to send representatives to the scene to meet their freed citizens. One of the hostages is known to have been killed so far, a woman who was shot early in the siege. The rebels are demanding the Russian army withdraw from Chechnya. Well, our next update's coming your way at the bottom of the hour. I'm Donna Fiducia. Your World is next on Fox.
A stroke of luck, maybe, just maybe, provided by the killer himself. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neal Cavuto, and this is your world. It is still not official yet, but it looks like the police have gotten the break they were hoping for. 2 men now in custody. Authorities believe they could be behind a 3-week killing spree around the nation's capital. Here is what we now know. The Montgomery County Police are set to hold a news conference on the sniper case at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Fox News will, of course, carry it live for you. Police interrogate Army veteran John Allen Muhammad and 17-year-old John Lee Malvo, believed to be his stepson. They were arrested early this morning following a nationwide manhunt, caught sleeping in a car at a rest stop in Maryland. Law enforcement sources are quoted as saying that a hole may have been found in the trunk of that car that they think was used to point the gun. A Bushmaster 223 rifle, scope, and tripod reportedly found inside that vehicle. To Brian Wilson, who has followed this story from the very beginning, maybe closure today. Brian, what can you tell us?
Well, I'll tell you what I know, and I must admit there's still a great deal that we do not know. We hope that Chief Moose will come to the microphones this evening around 6 o'clock or 6 p.m.-ish to give us a bit more information about the status of the case. However, we should not be under any illusions that Chief Moose will be any more expansive today than he has been in the past. If we are indeed in the end game, as many are suggesting, we will be moving from caution out of fear for hurting the investigation to caution for fear of hurting the prosecution. Police, as you said, Neal, are now holding John Allen Muhammad on federal firearm charges. 17-year-old Lee Malvo is being held at the moment as a material witness. We are told by trusted law enforcement sources that the relationship between the 2 men not clear. It is believed that Malvo may not be Muhammad's stepson. The 2 men were arrested at a rest stop on I-70 near Frederick. Oh, that's about maybe 50 miles from Washington, D.C. They were sleeping in the car. There are credible reports that a rifle was seen in plain sight in the back of the car. That car, and one can assume the rifle, being processed as evidence in Montgomery County, both containing a wealth of evidence that could bring this case together. In the end, if it increasingly appears it is the end, the community is breathing a sigh of relief here in Montgomery County, waiting for the final word that police have connected all the dots and have found all the evidence they need to bring charges against these individuals. Back to you.
Brian Wilson, thank you very much. Brian Wilson in Montgomery. Well, oddly enough, a case that gripped our nation in Montgomery, Maryland, had its origins and maybe its closure in a place called Montgomery, Alabama. Our Jonathan Seri on the southern angle that sort of fell into authorities' laps. Jonathan.
Neal, right now I'm standing in front of a liquor store where a crime took place on September 21. There were 2 women who worked in this store behind me. They were trying to lock it up when suddenly gunfire rang out. One of the women was killed, another one survived, but she wasn't able to identify her attacker. She was seriously injured. However, she is speaking to the media today, and we should have some excerpts of her statements a little bit later in the afternoon. Authorities are saying it's too early to draw a definitive link between the crimes that occurred here and those in the D.C. sniper attacks. However, there are many similarities. Earlier, police discussed what evidence they found here at the scene.
There's been mention of a credit card. There was no evidence taken here. There's no credit card connected to our crime scene here. We've also heard that a note was left. There was no note left here. We do have some evidence that we don't want to get into great detail about, but a note and a credit card was not part of it.
Now, interestingly enough, while there was no credit card stolen from here, around the same time, a credit card was stolen from another location in Alabama, and apparently the sniper tried to use that credit card number when talking with authorities, trying to get them to wire $10 million into his account. And that is just one of the pieces of evidence that may help authorities to draw a link between Alabama and the Washington, D.C. area. Neal, back to you.
All right, Jonathan Seri, thank you very much. When the solid tips came in, police swooped in on the case from several states in what has become a hugely cooperative and apparently successful effort. Joining me now from San Francisco, former New York top cop Howard Safir, and in our studios, Joe Coffey, the supervisor for the Son of Sam investigation in New York, and Bo Dietl, the head of Bureau Dietl and Associates. Bo, to you first. What What do you think the police are doing right now as they're with these guys?
Well, you know, right now is the most important part of the detective side of the investigation. When you bring these people and these two people who are suspects, the interrogation, you ask the question that you always hold your breath for them to answer. You Mirandarize them. You give them the Miranda warnings, and you hope that they want to talk to you, because if they tell you we don't want to talk to you, then you have to let them make a phone call to their attorney, and that strength and the ability of you striking in there and getting all that information out voluntarily, you lose it. So you're hoping that the lawyers aren't there. When they're lawyered up, then you have a real disadvantage for getting anything else. You have to go back then to solving this case and convicting them with the physical evidence, the ballistics, the fingerprints, and any other physical. Also, you got to realize, too, the DA is very important. When you bring them in, the DA is with you on a case this magnitude, and you have a jurisdictional problem here, too. You have feds involved. You have the different counties. Also, when you interrogate somebody, you got to have 2 or 3 lead detectives. That's the ones that do the talking. You can't have Chief Moose jumping in there and the FBI jumping in there and everybody jumping in there.
But that does not appear to have been the case.
Oh, no, I'm talking about as far as interrogating, if they are interrogating right now. But right now is a very crucial point if, in fact, he is talking with the police.
Joe, what is your read on what's probably going on behind the scenes right now?
Well, one great detective technique when you have a case like this or any homicide case and you have more than one person, you separate the 2 individuals and get one to turn against the other. And that's done quite a bit.
So the 17-year-old might turn against...
Yes, the 17-year-old. Right. I'm sure they're working on him right now to turn him against the 42-year-old, regardless of the relationship.
So they're being questioned in separate areas right
now? Yes. Oh, that's investigation 101.
Yeah.
You never question it together.
You know, you could make a determination, Neal, right away if you want to really do a good draw, is you go to talk to the district attorney and say, can I offer the kid not the death penalty? And then you go to the lawyer. You can make a deal right in the beginning where you're going to get them to cooperate.
To get some
and then you
responses.
bang it out. I mean, that would be a good move.
I'll tell you what, there's probably scores of defense counsel out there salivating at the thought of getting this case because of the publicity value of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Howard, let me ask you something here. What little we do know about John al-Muhammad right now is that he does not appear, if these early indications are right, to be the brightest bulb on the tree. We're talking about trying to have money wired, $10 million, to a stolen credit card, and that he himself might have made the call that linked Montgomery, Alabama to the Montgomery, Maryland killings, leading again to that stolen credit card. What are we to make of that?
Well, I think what we're to make of it is we're not dealing with a master criminal. We're dealing with somebody who believes that he's smarter than the police. He has the kind of arrogance that thinks he can defeat the police with his own intelligence and logic. And the reality is, in most of these cases, they're not smarter. They make mistakes. And in this case, the task force did an outstanding job in linking a lot of facts together, in using the tips and his phone calls to solve the puzzle. And
but Howard, what's interesting there is he led them to that, right? So in this case, my hats off to all these investigators. As Bodita pointed out, they all coordinated themselves brilliantly. But in a way, he solved the case for them. He was kind of bringing them on. I guess he just didn't plan on them being able to connect the pieces so quickly, right?
Well, I think like most of these criminals, he underestimated the ability of the police to link things together, the communications capability that both the federal, state, and local police have, and the incredible cooperation that there was in this case. You virtually had 20 different agencies working as one.
What is the possibility, Bo, that we're wrong? That maybe the real guy is still out?
You know, if they didn't find the rifle, I could say there's a possibility. I feel pretty comfortable that this person was the one that was involved. Now, you know, the other side of the coin with this, when this thing first started, he did 10, 12 shootings before there was any money asked for. It seems like he just started to shoot and decided, hey, I'll ask for $10 million. He really didn't know how he was going to end this thing. And it's very obvious he didn't know what was going to happen at the end. And I really believe after his conversations with the Chief Moose there, that he went so far. And like you said at the beginning, he's not the brightest bulb, and he did kind of give himself up. It was that good person last night. The real hero was that person seeing the car last night and identifying. And every time I did the show, when I do these shows, the people were the most important thing, because that's the tips that lead the detectives to capturing these people.
And you wonder too, Joe, what they were up to there in the middle, in the middle of the night. Were they planning another shooting?
Well, I'm sure Howard and myself and Bo, I know I was feeling this way all during the investigation, that the police and the law enforcement officials down there knew something we didn't know, and they kept it close to the vest. You always do this in any type of investigation. You don't give the press everything you know, because you need that down the road. In the case of David Berkowitz, we had a palm print on the first letter he dropped. And when we captured him, we took his palm print and matched it with that palm print.
But Joe, I'm not
Nobody
here to
knew we had
second guess
that.
these authorities, but why, when they had this letter some time ago, could they not have at least avoided follow-up killings when a former wife, one of this guy's former wives, would have been able to, oh, I recognize that handwriting? Or...
Yeah, but I'm not going to speculate and criticize anybody's investigative methods. The bottom line is they caught the guy. If people want to argue about the fact that maybe he could have prevented, the police could have prevented more crimes.
Well, Bo's arguing the last one could have been.
Well,
that's 20/20 hindsight.
No, again, when they had the description of the car on Sunday, supposedly, I mean, this was out, CNN had it out, about them having a description of this car on Sunday. The fellow, the bus driver, was killed on that Monday. You know, should you have put out a description of that car right away? It's easy
for us to do that.
And let me tell you something, these detectives, I have to give all the credit. I apologized to Moose on air a couple of times. These guys worked hard, 18 hours a day they're working, and they wanted to capture him more than anybody. So our hearts go out to them and congratulate them for capturing him.
The thing with Chief Moose was he was abused unjustifiably. He was not the investigator. He was the upfront guy. He was out in front of the microphone. You think he did a good job? Because he was the chief. Yeah. He wasn't a guy doing the background investigations. Okay. The real legwork and the detective work was being done by good policemen.
Howard Safer, you agree with that?
I do agree with it. In fact, you know, Chief Moose, I think, did an outstanding job. He was the communicator. You know, this was like a hostage negotiation, and what he was doing is he was the front communicator. You have to have one when you're dealing with this kind of criminal, and I think he did a very credible job. He also did a very good job, in my opinion, of making sure that the public understood that all the resources possible were being put into this investigation. So I think that he did a very credible job.
Howard Safer, final word on the subject. Joe Coffey, Bo Dietl, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well, the story reaches pretty much across the country. We've got live reports on both coasts coming up with important details surrounding the trail of the serial sniper. Stay with us. Your world, and a busy one at that, continues after this.
Priceline.com supercomputer has booked over 7 million name-your-own-price hotel room stays, saving travelers up to 50% and more on luxury vacations, low-budget road trips, family reunions, last-minute getaways, intercontinental rendezvous. Priceline.com supercomputer, delivering deluxe accommodations via discount computations.
I think, therefore I save.
There are people who trade once in a blue moon, and that's fine, but it's not me. I trade a lot, and because I do, I want to know I'm getting the right tools, the right information, all of it. Do I know what I'm looking for? Yeah.
Are you getting your share of powerful free tools? Ameritrade Apex offers the more active trader free Level 2 quotes, free streaming news, and 24/7 Apex client services. Ameritrade, what's your share? Open an account at Ameritrade.com today and get 25 commission-free internet equity trades.
Jack Bauer seems to live an ordinary life.
I love you so much, sweetheart.
But sometimes the men chosen to protect us,
Mr. President,
we are in the middle of a grave situation,
are the most dangerous ones of all.
Put it down!
This fall, an unimaginable threat.
This cannot leak out to the public.
An unstoppable man.
You want results, but you never want to get your hands dirty.
An unforgettable new season.
You need to get out of Los Angeles now.
Kiefer Sutherland, 24, the season premiere. Presented without commercial interruption by Ford. Next week on Fox.
Get ready for the freakiest Simpsons Halloween special ever, where the family discovers the horrors of cloning.
They look like you, and the horde has been described as very gassy.
Yeah, it's a good group. All new next week on Fox.
Or well, now to the West Coast connection in this situation that gets thicker and thicker. It was late yesterday that we found there was a link in, of all places, Tacoma, Washington. Fox's Will LaJeunesse is live in Tacoma. Will.
Well, Neal, a portrait is beginning to emerge of 41-year-old John Mohammed as a
perfectionist with a bad temper, as a bitter and unpredictable man, and that temper often got him in trouble at home and with the law. And in fact, he had expressed some resentment at the U.S. role in the Gulf War in which he served. He did, however, he was a devout Muslim for at that time, about 10 years, but nothing yet to explain why he would shoot 13 people on the East Coast if indeed he was involved. Now, Muhammad did serve 10 years in the U.S. Army. Most of it was here in Tacoma at Fort Lewis, and at most of the time he lived in the residence that you see right now from 94 to 2000. And it was here that the FBI did indeed search, and yesterday found a stump that we believe contained a bullet fragment that they are attempting to match to those fired in Washington. That stump was taken to the ATF lab in D.C. Now, during his time at in the Army, he was a machinist, as well as his wife said, a demolition expert. He came out, he ran an express lube outlet here in Tacoma. He also attempted to start a company called Soldiers First Incorporated, also starting a karate studio. Things went bad in the year 2000 when his second wife divorced him. She got full custody. He received supervised visitation. The judge actually wrote that he posed a physical and emotional threat to his 3 children. Now, angry, he violated those terms in February, and he threatened his wife. He broke into the home and he abducted the children, taking them to Antigua for about a year. The kids are aged 12, 10, and 9. Now, Mildred Muhammad described him as irrational. She was in fear for her life. She got a restraining order against him, and in that restraining order, it prohibited him from carrying a firearm, and it is that charge we believe he is being held on right now in Washington. And finally, he did have some minor altercations with the law here, a shoplifting arrest, and also jailed briefly for a traffic violation in '95. As for that, quote, son, we are told he is not a blood relative, that in '95, last year, the children were taken away from him by Bellingham police. They were put into state custody with CPS. He seemed to go downhill at that point, spent some time in a homeless shelter in Bellingham, and that's when he and his so-called son got together, and he was attending Bellingham High School, and they are now looking into that tie back in Washington. Neal?
William Lajeunesse in Tacoma. Thank you, sir. Well, America breathing a sigh today as it appears that the sniper situation is well under control, but it didn't help stocks today. Our Brenda Butner at the offices of Charles Schwab. Brenda.
Hey, Neal. For Wall Street, too, there is much thanks that this ordeal might be over, but it wasn't long before another worry weighed heavy. War talk. All the major markets took a dive mid-afternoon. Earlier, modest moves switched to a serious sell-off as trader talk turned from the sniper suspects to an Iraqi invasion. Word that Iraq might force out all foreign journalists worried Wall Street. This even though we got good news not only on the sniper situation, but also on the economic one. People filing for jobless claims is down. One thing that could help tomorrow, Amazon earnings out. They beat the street. Revenues were better. I know you're talking to Jeff Bezos coming up in the next hour, and you'll be sure to grill him on that. Basically, they had a break-even quarter.
Brenda Butner, thank you. More after this.
This program is brought to you by Household, helping everyday people every day.
She's the first one in the family to go to college. Full scholarship. 4 years. Thing is, it's 25 miles away.
We're Household, and we've helped over 700,000 people who need cars get cars. Because for nearly 125 years, we've understood the hopes and financial needs of everyday people. Household, helping everyday people every day.
Hello, Mr. President.
This fall, when our security is at stake, we need a man above the law.
Are you out of your mind?
And below the radar.
You want results, but you never want to get your hands dirty.
Kiefer Sutherland.
When do they need me?
24, the season premiere, presented without commercial interruption by Ford. No boundaries. Next week on Fox.
Chase down leaves and grass and beat the living mulch out of them. The new Homescaper series blower vac from Steel. Are you ready to quit playing with toys? Are you ready for a Steel?
Stark Street Lawn and Garden, Portland's power equipment connection. East side on Stark Street, west side on Tualatin and Sherwood Road.
Which candidate for Oregon Senate has been effective in Salem? Bill Witt has been the primary sponsor of more than 25 new laws. Laws that improve education, bringing more funding to Oregon schools. Laws that bring more jobs to Oregon, enhance our environment, improve access to health care, and assist disabled and low-income Oregonians. Charlie Ringo has sponsored only one new law. When it comes to getting results, Charlie Ringo has simply been ineffective. Bill Witt for Oregon Senate. Experienced, effective.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Neal Cavuto. As the police painstakingly pore over the evidence from today's arrest, prosecutors are busily building a case. But how tough is this one going to be? Let's ask Fox News' Greta Van Susteren, the host of On the Record, and Andrew Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst. Welcome to you both. Greta, to you first. Now comes the tough part. What are prosecutors likely to do?
Maybe the tough part, but it's putting all the pieces together, and I made a laundry list of things that the prosecutor is going to do. For instance, voice comparisons. They'll probably get what's called a voice sample from the two that have been picked up and compare it to some recordings, calls to the tip line. They're going to go for fingerprints. There's a fingerprint apparently at the liquor store down in Alabama. There'll be an effort to try to get the kid perhaps to flip against the other man in an effort to get testimony about where they've been. Remember, they face a death penalty in 3 jurisdictions: Alabama, Virginia, Maryland, and even perhaps a federal death penalty. In the car, you have a scope, you have a tripod, and you also have the fact that if the gun was fired from the car, there's going to be gunshot residue inside the trunk of the car. They'll investigate whether or not they had opportunity. There may be handwriting. They get handwriting samples and compare it to the 2 notes left, one at the Ponderosa and one left at Aspen Hill on Tuesday morning. And they're also going to get tire tracks from that car to see if anything was left at the scene. Finally, they're going to try to retrace where they've been to see if they said anything to anybody, made a statement. So, putting those pieces together, that's what the prosecution will try to do to convict them beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now, you look back at comparisons to O.J., right? They got to be very careful not to screw things up.
They do. When the last time the whole country watched the aftermath of a crime and the arrest of the suspect, it was O.J. Simpson. The evidence was overwhelming, and he got away because of the things that the government did to gild the lily that so offended the jury. I can't imagine that they would make the same mistakes now.
So there'd be nothing like they wouldn't be hitting or slapping these guys.
Well, they don't need to. A, it's against the law. B, it's not going to help them. C, Greta's list is remarkable, and the beauty of the list of the evidence that the government has that Greta so nicely just enumerated is, with the exception of the possible testimony by the young man against the older, all of that list of evidence is forensics, meaning it's fingerprints, it's a residue from the gun. Those things can't be cross-examined. Jurors have a tendency to believe those things. That is ironclad evidence of the more likely than not proof beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant committed these acts.
Greta, can you help me with one thing, though? The search in the car, why was that such a big deal and all these loopholes you had to go through just to search it?
Well, because you have to, if you don't get permission from the two whoever owns the car, you've got to get the law to authorize it. And so you go get a search warrant and you get the law to authorize a search of it, and then you go over with a fine-tooth comb. I want to add one other thing that in terms of the prosecution, the judge was just talking about. Said, look, if I were in charge of this case right now, I would give it to the prosecutors, the state prosecutors in Maryland. I know these people. Doug Gansler, I've known. He was a prosecutor here in D.C. His first assistant is Kay Winfrey. I've been up against her. She's mean. She's tough. She's thorough. She does her homework. I don't want to be up against her again as a defense attorney. She's that good. These people try shoot-em-ups all the time, and these are state prosecutors, and it'd be much wiser, at least I think, to keep this in the state system where they have the death penalty if they want to seek it, instead of letting the feds Bigfoot them and try to do a federal prosecution on it right now. The feds can do it later, but give it to the state prosecutors who do these sort of shoot-em-ups all the time. They're good prosecutors.
Greta's right. The feds do not typically prosecute cases like this. It's a stretch to apply the federal death penalty here. It's a stretch to apply the D.C. death penalty. Believe it or not, there is one under very narrow circumstances.
Is it a stretch to apply the death penalty, period?
It's not a stretch to apply the death penalty, period, in Maryland or Virginia. Virginia has it, uses it a lot. 86 executions since the death penalty was reinstated in 76.
Who gets the jurisdiction?
Maryland 3. Well, who gets the jurisdiction is who has the human beings. The state of Maryland has the human beings now. That Maryland will probably not give them up. I think they'll be prosecuted there.
We should point out that John Al Muhammad has, in fact, arrived at the Rockville Detention Center, so I guess that's it. That's it. In Baltimore, I should say. All right. We've got a lot more coming up. Guys, thank you very much. Straight ahead, businesses in the D.C. area have been reeling over the past 3 weeks. Can today's arrest help restore faith in the community? And half a world away, Chechen rebels are holding now 700 people hostage in a Moscow theater. One woman is already dead. A live report from Russia when your world returns.